talked to him further on this, and not much is happening on the Zionist side in this regard. But there is not much discussion about the scale of the killing until much later in the war. So, according to the author, Biden comes and says, I think I should go to Israel. And his advisor will say, you know the situation, there is war there, and this and this and this and that. And Biden said, no, I should go there. I need to be there. I need to talk to those people. I need to be there. So Blinken come to him and said, look, Netanyahu is insisting not to send any aid to Gaza because of the October 7 and because this is not acceptable to the Israelis and so on and so forth. Argument continue, telling Netanyahu, you are not sending this humanitarian aid to Gaza, to Hamas in Gaza. You are sending it to the people of Gaza. There are 2.5 million people in Gaza, and they are not Hamas. You do not claim that they are Hamas in this regard. So Blinken told Biden, I'm gonna threaten Netanyahu that if there's no plan to send humanitarian aid to Gaza, you will cancel your visit. Can I have your permission to make this threat? And Biden said, go ahead. So Blinken, of course, who went to Palestine early on and said, I came here as a Jew, although he's supposed to be representing this country, he came as a Jew. Blinken called Netanyahu and said, Biden is not coming unless you give us a plan to get humanitarian food and aid to Gaza. Now this tells you really the bulk of the thinking of the administration versus Netanyahu and company. There's this issue of aid keep coming. And, it's just like what we say, getting any concession from the Zionists, even to the President of the US, is just like pulling teeth in this regard. So Netanyahu comes and said, yeah, okay, let me discuss this with my committee and the advisors and the people there. So throughout the book, as we know from the reality, this has been a recurring issues. And Netanyahu would really play a major role in giving Biden the runaround with very little results, unless they really choke them with all sorts of threats that they will get something from that. So this is a main item in the book, and it is recurring in this regard. The author mentioned an incident just after October 7 events. And it's mentioned in the beginning, one time, but he refers to some of its aspect also throughout the book, but not as the aid book. So Netanyahu calls the White House on October 7 and said, we are ready. This is before they discuss the food issue, which, as I said, will be recurring. So he called the White House and said, we are ready to start a major preemptive attack on Hezbollah. And Biden and his advisors say, what are you talking about? I mean, you need to open a new front for you. This is on October 7. Discussion happened after those events. And basically, Netanyahu said, our intelligence indicate that Hezbollah is planning an attack similar to Hamas attack. And we have to preempt and attack, and our soldiers, our Air Force, everybody is ready. Within 30 minutes, we're gonna attack. And Biden says, okay, where is this intelligence? Because our own intelligence, the US intelligence, does not say anything at all. He said, no, our intelligence, we are confident of our intelligence. The author keep referring to this, we are confident. Because it comes frequently in the book, we are confident of our intelligence, which turn out to be false. Also, there's this 3-week thing that will keep coming in the book as if it's written in the Torah. So whenever they want to enter a city or have an, invade a place, Biden says, no, wait a minute, you cannot, do this. This will take, this. No, give us 3 weeks. That's it, and we'll get out. We'll take care of it in 3 weeks. You will see this being repeated, throughout the book. Now, this first part, which is we are ready to attack Hezbollah, preemptive attack, and the US is saying no evidence, absolutely no intelligence on this, and you will be doing a major mistake. Suddenly, Biden, press him on, what are this intelligence that you have? He said, we have seen, some of those Hezbollah fighters on gliders trying to get into northern Israel, just like what Hamas did on the periphery of Gaza. And again, Biden says, we have zero. We are there. We are observing. They have satellites. They have all sorts of listening devices. He said, there's nothing. Suddenly, Netanyahu come back and said, oh, we stopped the attack. Because it turned out those were not gliders, those were birds. And a whole chapter, a bloody chapter, have been avoided in this regard. Now, whether really the Israelis have, any of this intelligence, really from reading the book, there's big doubts on this. How could you mix between the gliders and between birds? I mean, the size, the motion, birds go all over the place and this and that. So it seems to me, and this is now my opinion, not what the book is saying, that the Israelis felt the humiliation and felt the shock, and they want to do something to give confidence to their own people. As the book says, the government's supposed to protect the people. And they have failed miserably. And imagine for a few hours, there's no army, there's no police that came to the defense of the Zionists and the settlers around Gaza. 3 hours, nothing. Not even a tank or a soldier would show up. So basically, the people who came from Gaza, initially the Hamasis and the Islamic Jihad, those who were regular trained forces, they took over 3 military bases, 27 military points, and killed so many soldiers, killed many police without any help coming. And then some others, civilians, start pouring from Gaza by the thousands, some walking, some on motorcycles, some on their, old cars and whatever, jeeps, and they start going between houses, burning some of those houses and looting some of the stuff from there, and no military, no police is to be seen. And as a result, after those hours, I think that the government felt we have to do something to really regain momentum and to give confidence to the people. I don't think that what they were talking about that we have real intelligence, it was false. But you will see this repeated in many places where Biden says, if you do it, you are on your own. That's the line of the threat. If it gets to this point, if you do it, you are on your own. We are not supporting you. And this happened in few instances. You are on your own. So the moment that Biden, the president of the US, tell the Israelis, you are on your own, we are not going to support this, that's when they back off. That's when they back off. And we have seen some of the examples during this war, especially we'll cover a little about the attack between Iran and Israel. Now, the bombing started and the killing, this genocide started. And at one point, we know that Blinken, Secretary of State, and even Biden got to sit on the war cabinet. And imagine the President of the United States and the Secretary of State attending a war cabinet meeting. And according to the book, they have a building down the ground. It's like 6 floors underground where they meet because they fear on themselves as the leadership of the country. So they go down ground 6 floors in those meetings. And you will see throughout the book this question come again and again. What's your plan? What about after the war? What's after the day after? You will see this coming frequently throughout the book. And the bulk of the Gaza section is really the dynamics between Biden and his advisors and Netanyahu and his cabinet and advisors. In many of the cases, it's only talking to Netanyahu, and he said, okay, leave it discussed with my people. So even when the US threatens and says, if you do this, you are on your own, okay? Netanyahu said, okay, I will discuss it with my people. We'll make a decision based on our national security. Of course, he caved in already. But he have the arrogance of not saying, okay, we'll do what you say. He put it in that fashion, that I'll discuss it with my team. There is a very interesting section on the book where Blinken visit Egypt, United Arab Emirates, Saudi, and Jordan. And some of you who have seen or attended some of the session and seen some of the videos, we keep calling Mohammed ibn Salman Mordechai, the son of Solomon, for his support to the Zionists. And we keep calling Muhammad ibn Zayed Mordechai, the son of Zaydun. Because those people really, if you end up understanding and what is the dynamic of this negotiation that goes through those Arab capital, you will see that those people are closer to the Zionists than the Ummah. I'll give example. The book is full of quotes. And again, he states, that is the author, that those quotes are either from someone who was himself said those words, this is his quotes, or someone who attended the meeting. And it seems to me a good part of this came from Blinken himself, although he does not state it. So Blinken goes and meets with King Abdullah of Jordan. And King Abdullah said, look, we have advised Netanyahu long time ago, don't trust Hamas. Hamas is the Muslim Brotherhood. We have a problem with those people. But Netanyahu kept trusting them. And Netanyahu, kept sleeping with Hamas. I mean, you will hear this from King Abdullah. from Mohammed bin Zayed, from Sisi and his people in this regard, and from the Saudis. You can, in fact, take the quotes and modify it a little to see it's a similar, thing. But all of them say at the end the same thing. Israel have to finish Hamas. You have to get rid of them in this regard. From Amman, he go and visit Muhammad ibn Zayed, Mordechai, the son of Zaydun. So Muhammad ibn Zayed says exactly the same thing, except he add, the Israelis have to give us space, and we will give them space. We will give them space to finish Hamas and to kill them. But we need them to give us space. What's the space that they need? Of course, is get some aid to Gaza so we can, tell our people that we are doing something in this regard. But he said, definitely, Netanyahu and the government have to finish Hamas. We all want to get rid of Hamas. And then he goes to Sisi. Same old, same old. But then look at the meeting with Abbas Kamel. Abbas Kamel has been a very close advisor to Sisi for more than 25 years, and eventually he put him in charge of the intelligence, mukhabarat. And of course, mukhabarat in Bilad al-Muslimin, as you know, in Muslim countries, the mukhabarat spy on their own people. I guarantee you that Hezbollah and Hamas have more information about the Zionists and about the settlements and about where are the armies more than the Egyptian government and the Jordanian government and all the other government, because basically the job of them is spy on their own people. So look at Abbas Kamel, and by the way, Sisi threw Abbas Kamel out, so he's no longer in the intelligence. In Egypt, when you want to get rid of someone, you appoint him an advisor to the president, which means nothing. It just means, I do not want to humiliate you more than all your services that you have done are already there. It's time for you to go. So Abbas Kamel tell Netanyahu, Blinken, you better tell the Israelis that Hamas tunnels are very deep and they are so widespread in Gaza. So I do not advise the Israelis to go into the tunnels because they will have many problems. So what's your advice, Ya Abbas Kamel, who looked to be a Muslim with a Muslim name? He said, you need to wait in Gaza, take the time. Whenever Hamas raise their heads, chop them. That's the advice of Abbas Kamel. That's the advice. He said, wait until they raise their heads and chop their heads. That's the advice of Abbas Kamel. We know in Islam that you give nasiha, right? You give nasiha to the ummah, you give nasiha to the Muslim ruler, you give nasiha to the believers. So those are giving nasiha to their own brothers, the Zionists. Another interesting meeting that takes place is with Muhammad Mordechai, the son of Solomon in Saudi. So he could not see him in the first visit, where he heard the same thing about the Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas, and you should get rid of them. And we advise, even the Saudis, we advise by, Netanyahu that this Hamas is dangerous, and he still kept relationship with them. So he come to Muhammad ibn Salman, Mordechai, the son of Solomon. He asked him, we have been talking about this normalization between Saudi and Israel. And for those who do not know, the normalization between the Saudis and the Israelis before October 7 was ready. It just needs some very little detail. It was ready to go, to be followed by Indonesia and by Pakistan. Normalization, so that because now we have Morocco normalized, Sudan normalized, Egypt normalized, Jordan normalized, Bahrain normalized, United Arab Emirates normalized, and Turkey have a relationship with the Zionists from the time of the NATO in the old days. So basically, with this new dynamics, the bulk will be following. So Blinken goes to Saudi and asks Mordechai, he said, what about this normalization with the Israelis? He said, I need it now more than ever. Now, this is while the killing and the genocide is happening in Gaza. This is when the thousands already became shaheeds, and tens of thousands at that time were injured. So he told him, I need it more than before. For sure, I want to proceed. But he said, look, my people, so he's telling Blinken that the people in Saudi are really jittery. They are not boiling. We say that in the Arab street in some countries, the people are boiling on those thousands of the tens of thousands of killings. But he said that within the streets in Saudi, this is a big issue. And we have to do something for us to normalize. So he asked him, what about this issue of the Palestinian state? And Mohammed Salman, he said, I really do not want it. But I need it. And for me, it does not matter. This is not something in my radar or in my priorities. I do not want it. But he said, at this stage, to normalize, I need it. I need it because I need to show it to my own street in Saudi. Look, I did something for the Palestinians. Yes, Gaza has been wiped out. Yes, there is a genocide. Yes, there is all of this. But I was able to force the Israelis to accept a Palestinian state. So I do not want it, but I need it. That's his term. And he said, then the Saudi government, or in Saudi Arabia, we are looked at as the leaders of the Arab world and the Muslim world. Of course, I'm not sure, he's not up to date. I don't think this is any longer the case. The streets in the Muslim countries and the Arab countries split on Mohammed ibn Salman and Mohammed ibn Zayed and Sisi and Abdullah of Jordan. No longer looking at it as the people of the protector of the Haramain. I mean, they are called the thieves of the Haramain. And we have seen, the shameful changes that he introduced in Saudi, beyond the imagination of the Saudis themselves. All those, while people in Gaza were being slaughtered day and night, and the parties in Riyadh are going full scale with all the, so-called stars in the Arab world and in the West, coming to the point that this stooge, this jerk, Turkey, who was appointed by Mohammed ibn Salman, Mordechai, the son of Solomon, to initiate all these parties. He said, now the kingdom is the lead in entertainment around the world. We are exporting the entertainment to the whole world. This is what Ibn Salman is doing. So, but he still thinks that we are the leaders. And you can see this in the last few meetings of the Arab and Muslim countries, basically. At one point, if you remember, and Bob Woodward does not mention it, Pakistan, Turkey, Malaysia, and some other countries started to have an alliance of Muslim countries to really distinguish themselves from the Saudis. And the Saudis gave very strong warning to Pakistan and others who would need their aid, that, this is absolutely should not go anywhere. Otherwise, we will do what we need to do. And it came to an end early on. But Muhammad bin Salman is still, this Mordechai, son of Solomon, is still pretending that he's the leader of the Arab world and he's the leader of the Muslim world. He said, for those people, I need also this Palestinian state to tell them that we did something for this Palestinian cause. So all the talk that we have about those people betraying the people of Gaza, we kept saying that those people are conspiring with the Zionists against Hamas and against the people of Palestine. It's really, if you read the book clearly, they have been talking to Netanyahu all along about this and saying, you are leaving Hamas in charge of Gaza. At one point, you're going to regret it. You can't trust them. I mean, they are, each one that goes and talks to Blinken, he is repeating the same, it's the old jazz, same story in this regard. The book also goes into the event when Biden went to visit the second time and the attack on the hospital happened. And when the preparation was there, King Abdullah called and said, please don't come. And Sisi called and said, please don't come. Because basically they fear the reaction of the people. You have 500 shaheed when the hospital in Gaza was bombed, and now Biden wants to go and visit. Don't come. So their masters in Washington and in Tel Aviv understand the circumstances in this regard. There's another section on the book that keep repeating, where basically the American government is telling the Israelis, you are shooting them yourself in the foot. By this killing, you are losing the support of the West. You are losing the support of the whole world. The world will be turning against you. You need to wake up to this reality. And Netanyahu does not care. He said, we are the victims. We need to do what we need to do. And you could see this at every corner, at every curve on this book. From the first invasion of Gaza, then to go south, to go to Rafah, to go to the Philadelphia corridor, and so on and so forth. At each stage, there is this, as if, the way that the author put it, as if there is no issue that's occupying the US administration other than Gaza, day in, day out. Now, there is a section, of course, if you read the book, you can imagine one of the filthiest mouths that I have known in politics, and listen, is the mouth of Biden. Sometimes in one sentence there are 3 F words. This is just the way that he talks. So when he talks about Netanyahu, he said this Netanyahu is an F so-and-so liar. And he says that Netanyahu is surrounded by 19 advisors. 18 of them are F so-and-so liars. That's, they know for sure that he has been playing games. In many places, this is a liar, combined with the F word, an F with the liar. And you could see this clearly. But at the same time, as the author mentioned, the administration hesitate to talk in public, because they have made a decision that all this talk will be in private in this regard. And it just carries on, especially when it gets into Rafah, a long discussion before they get to enter Rafah. And keep discussing what's the plan. But Netanyahu said, give me 3 weeks. I'll take care of it and we'll come back. Give me 3 weeks. We'll finish the job. Give me 3 weeks. Another section or part that keep repeating in the book is that we will finish everyone in Hamas. And the American captain, listen, you cannot do this. This is an ideology, and you cannot just wipe out an ideology. But still, he can come back with the token negotiation and said, we will finish Hamas and finish everyone in Hamas, meaning we're going to kill them all. And you will have this thing being repeated, at many places in the book. The issue of Qatar also comes. And basically, the Qatari government make it clear that, look, when the time comes, there's no need for Hamas in Qatar, there's no need for Hamas in Qatar. I know that Qatar have taken a stand with Turkey and Algeria, much better when we compare it to the rest. Although Turkey have dealt financially and economically with the Zionists for a while before they cut it a few months back. But what you can see clearly is Qatar is a tiny country. At one point, Saudi and the Emirates want to take over Qatar. And Qatar did not trust the US or the UK, which their father and their mother. The US and UK are the father and the mother of this Qatar. They did not trust them to come to their defense. So, at the direction, from my perspective, of the British, they went and signed a deal with Turkey, a defense deal. The second day, Turkey sent tanks to Qatar. And that was what prevented Saudi and United Arab Emirates to take over Qatar. But Qatar is playing a role that the West want Qatar to play, which is this back channel to organization that the US cannot deal with directly. I'll give you an example, which the book does not mention it. When the Zionists start talking about Qatar in Washington, D.C. and the role of Qatar and this and that, so the embassy of Qatar issued a statement saying basically it is the US government that asked us to open an office for the Taliban in Qatar. And it's the US that asked us to have this back channel to Hamas. So basically, look, don't blame us. We are a tool in the hands of the West. Yes, we have been using our money to support the people in Gaza and this and this and that. But when it comes to this international game, we do not play it. We are tiny. We are playing the game of the major powers in this regard. So I'll stop at this, inshallah, for Gaza, unless there are some questions that come. On Ukraine, I'm going to just mention a few highlights. The first part on Ukraine is when the Russians start gathering troops, beefing up the borders between Russia and Ukraine. This is about 7-8 months before the invasion. And the administration, went into high alert discussing this issue. Of course, this is way before October 7 happened. It's like a year and a half before October 7 happened in Gaza. So they have full time for this Ukraine thing. And the administration, after a long discussion with the advisors and with the Europeans, they came to a conclusion that we need to give something to Putin. Putin needs prestige, need to feel that he's not an outcast after he took over the Crimea in 2014 and with all the sanctions. So if we give him something, he will back off. So Biden agreed to meet with him in public and saying this should be enough to really for him to back off. Now we are recognizing him that Russia is playing at the wood stage and he's meeting with Biden and this and this and that. And of course they met and things after that cooled at the border. But 2 months or so before February, suddenly there is another tens of thousands of Russian troops gathering at the borders. And the US claim, through the discussion that the book talk about, that they have certain intelligence from within Russia that Putin have decided to invade. And there are only very, very few, maybe 3 or 4 people who have been informed of this. And they go into the length of talking about how Lavrov, who's the foreign minister of Russia, had no idea what the US knew. So Blinken meet with Lavrov and said, you guys are preparing to invade? And Lavrov said, absolutely not. There's absolutely no plans. This is, it's your dreams. This has no reality and this and this and that. So Blinken said, at that point, I realized that Lavrov is not from the inner circle. But when they discuss it with the defense minister, and the defense minister, the way that he answered the questions and this and that, it seems that, yeah, he was aware of the decision. So the US went in full gear to Ukraine, talking to Zelensky, Russians are invading. And Zelensky said, no way, it's not happening. It will not happen. You saw what you did before, you met with him and he backed off. US said, look, he is coming. You need to prepare. And Zelensky will not have any of it. The US goes to the European countries in NATO and says, Putin have already decided, and we have the intelligence for sure, he is invading. And the European countries, one after the other, said, no way, this will not happen. Again, I'm quoting the book that quotes Biden and his advisors, that nobody have believed them in this regard. When it got close to February, they called on Zelensky and said, look, we are telling you, you have to have a plan in case the leadership is taken out. If the leadership in Ukraine is taken out, you have to have plan B. Because we have no doubt that the Russians are coming. And regardless, of your stand, believe it or not, we are telling you this is happening. You need to go and prepare for an alternative leadership in case you are gone. And until the moment that the war started and the invasion started, neither Zelensky nor the Europeans will buy it. That's according to the book. Now, how accurate is this part? It's really difficult to say. With Gaza, we know what has been said. We have been following it closely, and much of it has been in the media. The new thing is the quotes from Arab governments, from Arab leaders saying 1, 2, 3, 4. The quotes. We knew all along what they are doing and how they are doing with the... But this part on Ukraine, it's really take it or leave it. It's difficult to say, because for me, it's difficult to imagine that the European countries basically did not buy it. And Zelensky, how could you have 200,000 troops at your border and say, oh, they are not coming? Why do you put 200,000 troops? Why would Russia put 200,000 troops at the border with Ukraine if their intention is not to invade? Of course, the invasion happened, and a good part of the discussion is how to impose sanctions, how to support Ukraine, and why the initial invasion failed miserably by Russia, because they could not get to take over Kiev. That was, he said that typically any country that attacks should take out the command and control. He said the Russians did not do it. And they paid a price for this. And then they sent 1,500 tanks. They stuck on the roads. And they could not achieve of taking Kiev, although that was the plan. Take over Kiev, kill Zelensky and his team, and install a government that supports Russia, just like what they did in Georgia. And the rest of it is just how to manage the war, how to support and let the Russian pay a heavy price for this invasion. For the election, the author says that a year before the election, when Biden was doing fundraising, it became clear to the big fundraiser, the big contributor to the Democratic Party, that Biden is not in a health or mental well-being or what have you, even the way that he walks, that he could really be a president for another 4 years. He said a year before his decision to step down and let Harris take over, that was well known among the Democrats and the main contributors. And he gave events from specific places in some people's homes where money was gathered, and Biden will give speeches, and then he will go left and right and sometimes say things that make sense and sometimes things that does not make sense at all. But he said about before the primaries for the Republican started, or around that time, Lindsey Graham goes and meet with Trump in Florida and said, this is your chance. You will be a winner, and the Republican Party will be a winner. We'll take the House and the Senate. But he said, you need to stop talking about the election of 2020, it was stolen. You need to start discussing the issues. And, you know, Trump goes to still discuss the 2020 election. And look at this. I mean, this is really fascinating. Very funny, but fascinating. So this is a quote. Basically, Lindsey Graham tell Donald Trump at that meeting, he said, all the Americans, they believe, those who among the Americans who believe that the earth is flat and that we did not go to the moon, all of them will vote for you. It's guaranteed. So basically the people who are, you know, they are living in the 10th century at the time of Isa alayhi salam, they are living in a different world, they will vote for you. He said the challenge is to talk to the rest of the country. He said, don't keep repeating the old issues. Those people, you already guarantee it. Meaning, those who do not think, among the Americans, those who are, you know, basically, I don't want to say stupid, but it's along the same line, those who are really have not much of an understanding of reality, people who are basically did not even get to a high school education, people who are this, people who are that. He said those people, I mean, the way that he put it, the people who believe the earth is flat and we did not go to the moon. He said, everyone will vote for you. Let's talk to the rest of the country. And from there start the dynamics that ended up in Trump becoming the president. I wanted really to leave some time for a question and answer and comment. So we have about 8 minutes, inshallah. I'll stop here because the details, the lefts that I left are details. Those are the important highlights of the book. And I think reading the book will be a good experience for those who want to understand American politics, how the decision-making process, and the relationship between the US and the Zionist entity in Palestine. That at the end, the US can stop things and can make things happen. It's not that Netanyahu controlled the White House and the Zionists control the White House, as some people believe. That when the US says, we will not support this, you are on your own, they will back off. But rarely the administration will say this sentence. They always try to, you know, yeah, we are behind you, you have the right to defend yourself, and so on and so forth. And so forth. Any comments, question, or anything on your mind, inshallah? تفضل.
We lived almost 15 months of the war here over Gaza. And I really see that our war is not Israel against Gaza, it is USA. When you see the Senate, Republic, the majority, and even the Democrats, they all, you know, explicitly, they say, okay, let's kill them. Lindsey Graham and others, they supporting Israel because Israel is like a proxy similar to the other Arab countries. So, seeing this, I think our fight, you know, is going to be tough, you know, to convince USA. We are getting support from the internationals and the West, but it's going to be very hard for us to get the American to really shy from what is called the new Middle East.
Look, I mean, the US, regardless of who is the president, they have made a commitment to the security of the Zionist entity in Palestine. And for some time to come, not sure, what's the time frame, but unless this becomes costly to national security, they will keep doing it. And basically, they look at it from also different perspective. True that there is support. For example, last week, when Bernie Sanders put a resolution about stopping weapons to Israel, 20 senators or so voted with him. And I will tell you, 20 senators is really a good number in this regard, because before this, you rarely will have a voice. Since the Zionists have dealt with some of those voices like, Paul Findlay and Percy and others who supported the Palestinian cause and tried to have a balance. They were not against the Zionists, but they want to have a balanced view. The lobby and the money flowing from all over went against them, and they lost elections 25 or 30 years ago. So they made, basically an example from them. The Zionists know that the moment the US left its support and cover of this Zionist entity, they are toast, finished. They know this. And that's why you will see whenever in the book, and even after when this ICC decision of issuing an arrest warrant to Netanyahu, you will see that immediately whenever something, the US, we're going to go to the US, we need your protection, we need your help. It's with this in this regard. But at the same time, I think what we need to realize is the history is not on the side of the Zionists. There are so many weaknesses that are showing within this Zionist entity between the different factions within the society, from where they come from, the Ashkenazis who come from the West, and versus those who come from the East, the religious versus the secular, the extreme right versus the rest. I mean, you have which country in the world now is talking about that its existence is in danger, and they may not exist next year? It's those Zionists. I mean, there are voices that saying, well, if Netanyahu continue on this war after war after war, we are toast, we are finished. And they appeal to Biden, rescue Israel from itself. So the US, I think anyone who expects from the US to be playing a fair role in this is really daydreaming. It will not happen. So until and unless the people on the ground and the Ummah, partially or fully, will take a stance, I I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that if the Muslim countries will come and take a stand on the issue of just sending food to Gaza, let's just talk about a small issue. Just a small issue. We are not talking about them fighting the Zionists. To come from Saudi to Turkey to Pakistan to Sudan to United Arab Emirates to Bahrain and this and that, and said, wait a minute, starting tomorrow, we'll start the process to cut the relationship between us and the Zionists. We will not have any relationship. We will not deal with business. I mean, at this point, when the people of Gaza are starving, United Arab Emirates, Saudi and Jordan are supplying the Zionists with thousands of trucks each week that takes the supplies. I mean, give me a break. So هم العدو فاحذرهم. Yeah, those are the real enemies in this regard. Why do you blame the US in this regard? One more question or comment, inshallah, before we close. No, let me just see if somebody else. Yes? Now, you read the book, and before that, we have discussed this before the book, even here. The US control this Zionist entity. That's for sure. Now, to say that they have influence in Washington, D.C., they have a say with the Congress, they have this, I'm not going to argue with this. It's there. It's there. But when a decision needs to be made, I mean, let me close with this example. This exchange of missiles between Israel and Iran. In the book, he says that Iran sent a message to the US saying, look, we have to respond to the events in Syria when they have. So it will be a limited attack. They will tell them, when this attack takes place, and it's a limited, damage. In this regard, they will tell the US. And the US, say, okay, we're going to get Jordan, Saudi, and us and the Israelis to defend the Israel. And they said they did. Saudi and Jordan defended Israel. This is what it says in this regard. When the Israelis wanted to attack, so now the Israelis send a direct message to Iran saying, look, you have attacked us. We have no choice. We have to attack you. But it will be a limited attack. We will not produce damage. And just keep it at that. Don't respond, and this thing is over. So the Israelis and the Iranians are coordinating either through the US or between themselves. So when Netanyahu said we're going to head to the oil industry and the nuclear, Biden said you are on your own. We will not defend you, and we will not be participating in the attack. And what happened with Netanyahu? He did some limited attacks that did not do much damage to the Iranians. And in fact, after the scandal of last week, Netanyahu came and said that we also attacked a nuclear installation. Guess who told him you are a liar? The head of the IAEA. There's this international committee that look after the nuclear facilities around the world. So this guy came and said, Israelis did not attack any nuclear facility because he knows all the facilities. He said they did bomb a facility that long time ago had some nuclear activity. Like, 20, 25 years ago had this. So this International Atomic Energy Agency, the head of it told Netanyahu, no, it did not happen in this regard. The book makes it clear that the US, the Israelis and the Iranians are really on the same wavelength. Jazakum Allahu khair. Babarak Allahu fikum. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring the khairan good to the ummah, alleviate the suffering from the ummah. Allahumma ameen. Jazakum Allahu khair.